Some of the deadliest technology in World War II didn't begin in a laboratory or a factory. It began in silence, in workshops where men never signed their work, never sought praise, and never spoke about what they truly knew. Long before tanks rolled and bullets screamed, a medieval craft was perfected so well that its DNA survived into the most destructive war in human history. And, almost no one talks about it. This is the story of the medieval board strengthener craft. A craft kept quiet on purpose. A craft that made wood stronger than steel in the right hands. And a craft whose fingerprints can still be found in World War II armor, aircraft, and battlefield survival. Let's get into it. The craft nobody was allowed to brag about. Medieval warfare depended on wood more than most people realize. Shields, siege engines, fort gates, wagons, towers, ships. Wood was everywhere, but raw wood was weak. It cracked, splintered, burned, and failed under impact. That weakness forced medieval craftsmen to master a secretive skill set focused on strengthening wooden boards beyond what most people thought possible. These craftsmen didn't just cut planks, they layered, compressed, treated, bonded, and reinforced them using methods passed down orally. No manuals, no signatures, no written recipes. Silence was protection, knowledge was power. This wasn't art, it was survival engineering. How medieval boards became battlefield armor. The key wasn't thickness, it was structure. Board strengtheners learned that wood behaves differently depending on grain direction, moisture content, and layering. They laminated boards with alternating grain patterns to absorb shock. They compressed fibers through heat and pressure to increase density. They treated surfaces with natural resins, oils, animal glues, and ash-based compounds to resist moisture and splitting. Most importantly, they understood impact behavior. A sword strike doesn't just cut, it transfers energy. These craftsmen designed boards that flexed just enough to absorb force without breaking. That principle alone would echo centuries later. By the late medieval period, reinforced wooden shields could deflect sword blows, resist arrows, and even survive early firearm impacts at certain angles. That knowledge didn't disappear, it went underground. Silence was intentional. Strong boards meant military advantage. If everyone knew how to build them, no one had the edge. Guilds restricted membership, apprentices took oaths, techniques were fragmented so no single person held the full process. When metal became dominant, many assumed these wooden crafts died out. They didn't. They evolved. They migrated into shipbuilding, wagon construction, and later industrial manufacturing. The principles stayed the same: control the grain, layer the structure, manage energy transfer, and that brings us to World War II. The medieval blueprint hiding inside World War II machines is, well, kind of fascinating. Here's where things get interesting. World War II aircraft relied heavily on laminated wood structures, plywood fuselages, reinforced wings, composite panels. Engineers actually rediscovered what medieval board strengtheners already knew. Properly layered wood can be light, strong, flexible, and, shock-resistant. Bombers, fighters, and gliders used laminated wooden components not because of nostalgia, but honestly, because they worked. Wood absorbed vibration better than metal. It handled stress fractures differently. It didn't fail catastrophically the same way steel could. Even armored vehicles use layered materials inspired by the same logic: spaced armor, composite plating, shock dispersion. That kind of thinking traces all the way back to medieval board reinforcement. Same problem, same solution, different century. So, energy absorption was the real weapon. The medieval craft, it wasn't about hardness, it was about control. A board that's too rigid, well, it just shatters. But a board that's too soft, that one collapses. The sweet spot, honestly, is controlled flex. Medieval craftsmen, they mastered this through trial, error, and blood-soaked necessity. In World War II, that same concept actually saved lives. Aircraft skin flexing under stress, vehicle panels deflecting fragments, protective structures absorbing blast energy, instead of transferring it directly to the crew. These days, modern engineers call it material science. Medieval craftsmen, though, they just called it experience. Different words, but same truth. Why did history almost erase these craftsmen? Well, they didn't leave monuments, they didn't command armies, they didn't wear medals, they worked in shadows. Their success was invisible because honestly, when boards held, nobody noticed. Failure got attention. Success looked like nothing happened. That invisibility, it followed them into history books. Metal got the glory, firearms stole the spotlight. The quiet science of strengthened wood, well, it just faded into footnotes. Yet without it, fortresses fell faster, ships broke sooner, war machines failed harder, and World War II quietly borrowed from that forgotten foundation. What this teaches us about warfare and innovation is, well, real breakthroughs rarely appear fully formed. They evolve, they hide, they survive in fragments until the world needs them again. The medieval board strengthener craft proves that innovation doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it whispers across centuries. You know, it reminds us that World War II wasn't just a clash of modern machines, it was really the culmination of thousands of years of human problem-solving, old knowledge, refined under new pressure, and honestly, that's the kind of history 0 Hour World War II exists to uncover. So, why does this story matter today? Well, understanding these hidden crafts changes how we see war. It stops being just explosions and strategies, it becomes human ingenuity stacked layer by layer, generation by generation. The medieval craftsmen never imagined bombers, or tanks, but their understanding of materials, force, and survival lived on long enough to shape them. That's legacy without recognition, power without fame, and really, it deserves to be remembered. If this kind of deep forgotten history is what you come to 0 Hour World War II for, make sure you subscribe, share this story with someone who loves the hidden side of warfare, drop a comment and let us know what other lost crafts or untold stories you want uncovered next. History still has secrets, and we're here to dig them up.